Okay, we're starting seeds. We've got tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, cucumbers, melons, all that kind of stuff. But for right now, we need to get the seed starting mix properly moistened. You don't want it too wet, you don't want it too dry. A good tell is when you squeeze it, if you can get 1 or 2 drops of moisture out of it. So we're even a little dry right now, but that's okay. You can always add more. It's a little bit more difficult to take the water out. So we have deeper trays. They're probably about 3 inches deep, maybe 1.5 inches wide, at most 2 inches. This is a little large for starting seeds, but as long as you have your moisture properly maintained and you're not compacting those cells too much, then you're going to be okay. It's just a matter of worrying about the oxygen that gets into the soil, the water that's contacting the seed, and the temperature. If you start your seeds too cold or you don't have a heat mat or anything like that, then you're going to run into issues with mold and fungus kind of growing in your seed starting mix, which you really don't want. Plus, a lot of the seeds that we're starting early really want to be started in the mid 50s to 70s range. So you want to make sure that the soil temp is right so that they really get started strong, that those roots really dive deep, and that they feel like they're in a warmer environment than what you're starting them in. The trick is you can grow these plants from seed, directly seeded into the garden, but it's a lot easier to weed around them and to manage them and to make sure that they don't get any stress when they're a little bit larger. Yes, your seeds are being programmed by what soil you put them into, and their genetics are going to change based on that, so you don't want to put them into super fertilized, super rich starting mix. You want something basic, simple, and clean without too much fungus or other stuff or bacteria that's growing within the mix. You want something that's kind of stable and at a base level. Some people even say that you can start your seeds in a sand mix, and that would be completely fine. But the thing is, if you're doing a very simple mix that has no extra additives into it, once those plants start to emerge, you need to feed them. If there's nothing in your soil that will feed them, well, then they're not going to survive. Just like a baby, they're born with everything they need. They have what they need to get started, but you need to supplement that after they're started. There's no going back after you stress out a very young seedling. It's really important to make sure that in the early years they are just taken care of at the right level, and that you're not too overbearing or that you're not too restrictive on what you're giving them. So we're starting in a super simple seed starting mix. It's a garden mix. There's not really much added into it, but it does have decent porosity, and there's a good amount of airflow through it. Plus, we're really not packing these containers down really tight with any soil that we put in. We're leaving it a little loose, and then when we add moisture into it, that will help compact down anything further that we need to be compacted. Try and make sure you're managing for how much time you have for all of this, because once you get to a certain point, you will need to move your seedlings out into the natural air and into the natural sunlight to let them acclimate from being inside to being outdoors. So there's a process there where you actually need to manage moving them back and forth. Most people know about this, but it's called hardening off. That's a process by which you just take them maybe for an hour for the first day outside, bring them back in, maybe the next day it's 2 hours, and you just slowly advance this until the point where you can leave your seedlings out for, a full day without worrying about them. And one of the best things you can do is probably going from an interior like this to a shaded area outside that lets them adapt to the different temperatures, the airflow, the sunlight bouncing around the area, especially if you're in a spot where you're not getting a lot of natural sunlight inside. You need to give them the time to go and get adapted. Just like if you move to a new country, you need some time to adapt to wherever you are. So after that, you're ready to transplant and everything's good to go in the soil. Especially if you pre-program the plants by giving them not too much nutrition, not too little nutrition. You're giving them some sort of balanced diet. Once they go into the soil, especially if your soil is richer and more nutrient dense, then those plants are really going to take off. If you take them from a beautiful, perfect starting mix and then you put them out into soil that's not as well balanced or not as nutrient dense, they're going to suffer because they're thinking, wow, I grew up in this super great environment and now I'm ready to go. And then you put them into this subpar environment and they suffer. So if anything, it's a little better to have them start in a more lacking environment and then put them into a medium or high level nutrient dense soil where they can just thrive. So let's get started. We have cherry tomatoes here, which are very small seeds. You want to just put them basically double the width of the seed down. Don't need to worry too much because plants are pretty intelligent. They'll figure it out regardless. They know what's up. They know what's down. And yeah, that's really it. You just get them into their cells. Make sure that there's a decent amount of moisture in there and that you don't let them dry out because every bit of life needs water. And from that, you just make sure that they're warm enough. All right, so we're all set. We're done seeding our tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, and snapdragon flowers. They all need a little bit of extra time in the beginning of the season to get going, so we put them into cell trays that we have distributed bottom heat underneath. We do not have perfect bottom heat. There's some cells that are not getting heated, but because the heaters are so close and the trays are close, we're hoping that everything will work out. You don't have to have perfect conditions. You just need to make sure that you're growing something. So get out there, grow it, and we will give you an update on how these seedlings are starting in a couple weeks probably. So just check back in and we'll talk to you soon. Peace.